Hey, it didn't kick me out. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to a special edition of Learn Photography with Duck. As always, I am your host, Duck, and today we're doing a special CTPPA monthly program just for you guys. Aren't you special? All right, so tonight we're going to talk about Lightroom presets and Lightroom, how to use masking tools. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down into two parts. I'm going to do the masking first and then go into presets because once you understand how you can use masks, I'll show you some neat little tricks that you can do with masking. All right, so I want to get the masking done first before we move into the presets. All right, so let me go ahead and first of all share my screen. Where's my share? Share that, share. Okay. All right. Can everybody see me nice and big on your screens? Okay, good. All right. Might as well just go ahead and launch right into it. Okay. So, oops, desk. Let's go to desk. All right. So, before I start, let me ask this: is everybody using the latest version of Lightroom Creative Cloud? Nobody has an old version, right? Okay. Lexi,
Mine is new.
you have what?
I think mine is the newer one, but
Okay.
my intimidation still hasn't gotten me to open it.
Oh man. I you know what? We're gonna have to do a one-on-one with you because you're missing out a lot. You can pretty much with the kind of work that you do, you can probably put aside Photoshop and just stick to working with Lightroom. As Lightroom has advanced, it has taken over a good portion of my photo editing, especially for events. And yeah, I do my about 95% of my editing in Lightroom, and whatever I can't do in Lightroom, I'll port out to Photoshop, but that's a different story. Okay. All right. So we'll just assume that everybody has the latest version. Okay. And it's up to date. All right. So masking. The most recent addition that Lightroom did was expanded their AI masking tools to incorporate landscapes. Okay, so let me just let me go ahead and I'm just going to keep it simple. We'll pick this image here, go into the develop module. All right. And in the develop module, you're going to see up in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see the histogram. Okay. And then just below the histogram is a toolbar that contains, excuse me, some functions, including crop, spot removal, red eye reduction, and this circle, this is the one for masking. It also has an AI function that kind of is pretty neat. Any of you guys use any of the AI editing softwares like, see, I don't even know their names. Which one?
Voto. VOTO.
Oh, and Voto, yes.
Voto.
All right. So a lot of those use AI to analyze your image and then apply certain edits to it. Lightroom has the same. I know it's not as robust as some of these other programs, but it's getting there. The Lightroom color profiles are a little bit different than like Envato and Shootproof and all those others. But anyway, one of the first things that I do is I tend to go ahead and normalize my image. Normalize means I'm going to do things like color correction, exposure correction. If the horizon is crooked, I'll straighten it out. I'll if I know I'm going to be working within a certain aspect ratio, I might do it at this point, but usually any kind of cropping, I'll wait till the end. All right. And then I'll do what are called global edits. Global edits are anything that you do to the image that applies across the board to every pixel in the image. All right. And then from there, I'll go ahead and figure out how I want to take it from, you know, a regular image and add my personal enhancements and bring it up to the next notch. And that's where we get into local edits. And local edits rely very, very heavily on masks. That allows us to target very, very specific parts of an image. Okay. So like I said, in the toolbar right below the histogram in the develop module, there's that little circle that represents a mask. You see the kind of like the marching ants around a circle, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So you click on that, we get this drop down box. All right. Everybody see my screen okay? Nice and clear? All right. Okay. And we have a series of selections that are available to us right off the bat. At the top, we have what I call kind of like a one-click mask creation. Now, I mentioned that these tools use artificial intelligence to analyze an image. But as you know, AI is not as aware, is not as perceptive as the human brain is. So there are going to be issues, there are going to be problems, there are going to be things that the AI feature misses because it's just interpreting pixels and using the arrangement of pixels in a certain pattern that it recognizes as being a person, as being a building, as being a, you know, an object. Okay. So like when you build any kind of mask in any software, you will need to go in and refine it. Okay. So the one-click masks that are available to us, we have our subject, and that's a very loose definition. All right. We never know what the program's going to look at and say, oh yeah, that's the subject. Okay. We have a sky selection, which actually has been refined and works remarkably well. And then we have a background selector, which, yeah, it still has problems because, again, it's trying to estimate or guess as to what you consider the background and what you consider the subject when you photograph an image. If you shoot in a studio and you have clean, simple, well-defined backgrounds, it does a really, really good job. But if you're an event photographer and you have a very busy background and, you know, you have a person as your subject, but you also have people in the background, that's where it gets kind of confusing. And, you know, you can probably understand why. All right. Below that section, we have a series of other selections that we can do. All right, and like I said, the first one here that says landscape, that's the latest edition that Lightroom added. And all that does is it allows you to select specific areas of a landscape image based on what it is. All right. So in this case, let me just click on it so you understand. When you click on it, it creates a slot ready for you to start building your mask. Okay, this is going to be auto generated for you, but we have to give it some input. Right now, it's analyzing the image and it's only picking up that there is vegetation. Okay, there's only vegetation here. Okay. All right, I'm going to cancel out of that and I'm going to go to this image here, which technically you can say it's a landscape, but there's a lot of other elements. There are man-made elements, there are people, there's vegetation, there's water, there's sky. All right, so here you can, well, I've already started building some here from a previous workshop, but let me, you know what? Let me delete them all. All right. So we have landscape. All right. It's going to analyze the image and it's going to populate your selections based on what is available in the image. Okay. And you need to be connected to the internet because this is using the cloud as a service. Okay. And as you can see, here it is. So we have the sky. We can select the sky. We can select anything that it recognizes as being architectural in nature. We have vegetation and we have water. All right. And now, if you notice, as I hover over these, the image turns red. All right. This is an indicator of what is being selected. You can modify this, and I strongly suggest you learn how to modify this because if, for example, I'm working on an image that is predominantly red and I'm using red as my mask, I'm going to have a hard time seeing it. So I tend to switch between this or a really a lime green. All right. And as you can see, oh, here, let me do this again. When you click on your mask, it's going to open up this little dialog box and you're going to have this little square, all right, with the 3 ellipses next to it. That square, you can change the color that's going to be used on your overlay, okay? And it'll only show it if you have this show overlay selected, okay? Right next to it with the ellipses, it is going to open up a drop down. By default, it's typically the color overlay, but you can also use black and white or any of these others. I tend to work with the color overlay because that's what I'm used to, but change it as you see fit. I suggest playing around with that setting for a little bit. All right. But what I do is I'll click on the color, and as you see, there are a few presets. Red, that neon green, and then of course black and white. I actually I can't even think when the last time I used a black or a white. Okay. Or sometimes I will use like a really vibrant blue. Okay. Again, depending on the saturation of colors and the predominance of colors in your image. All right. So in this case, I'm just going to go with the green just to show you what it looks like. All right. Right below it, there's an opacity slider. How opaque All right. And then you have a selection. Do you want the affected area, which is usually what I like, because that lets me know whatever's painted with that color, that's what's going to be modified. All right. Or you can do the unaffected area. It's entirely up to you. Okay. Close that out. Now, if I hover over this, you're going to see that it uses that green color. All right. But you can see here, when I hover over the sky, it just kind of blends into everything around it because I have such a predominance of green. All right. That's why I tend to use something that is going to contrast. So I'm going to go back and pick that red. And now when I hover over it, you can definitely see that stands out a lot more. Okay. All right. These little one-click actions allow you to say, all right, I hover over it, I preview what is being selected, and then when I click on it, I can click on as many of those as I want. So let's say I wanted to add the architecture part in there as well, and maybe even the water. All right, I'm just going to avoid everything that's grass or sky, and then I click Create Mask. It's going to generate a mask for me. Okay, and you can see everything that is red. All right, now you will also notice that it missed a lot of stuff. Okay, it missed a lot of stuff. Okay, this is what I mean by it's not perfect.
The face for
What's that?
it masked the guy's face.
Yeah. Because it was going for anything that it considers vegetation. All right. And it also went for architecture, but it targeted the fountain while leaving other stuff that's in the background that we would consider architecture, like the edge of the fountain and the wall in the background. Okay. That's, to me, that's architecture, but it completely missed it. All right. The banner here completely missed it. So there are issues with it. You have to kind of sort of play with it, but we can refine our masks. Okay. So when we open up our mask, all right, so you just click once, it opens up your mask, and there's our three selections that we made: architecture, vegetation, and water. And then just below that, we have two buttons, add and subtract. Okay, add and subtract. So we can add to the mask or we can subtract from the mask. Okay.
Does that mean changing the density of the mask?
No, we don't. We can't change the density of the mask.
The selection, so it could select more, select less.
So you can select more, you can select less. All right. However, because what you're doing is you're making modifications based on sliders, you can adjust the amount of your effect by the use of sliders. Okay. There are some tools within Lightroom that will allow you to play around with the density of the mask. Unfortunately, this is not one of them. Okay. All right. So we have the add and subtract, but if we press and hold the Alt or Option key, you'll notice that those two become a third option, kind of like a hidden option. And this is the intersect. All right, where we intersect the current mask with something that we want to use as an intersection. And I'll explain that later. Okay. All right. So in this case, we want to add all these little spots, you know, down in here that we missed. All these here, these little spots. All right. All these things that got missed. Okay. So the best way I can think of doing that is we are going to go ahead and click on Add. And from the drop down, we have all our choices that are available when we first open up our mask tool. Okay. And including this one, which is called a brush. The brush allows you to really get in and be very nebulous with your selections. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And just like any brush tool in Photoshop, you use the square brackets to make the brush larger or make the brush smaller. Okay. You can use shift bracket to make the feather greater or smaller. Okay. But I usually, just for simplicity's sake, I will go ahead and make my changes right with the sliders in the masking tool. So we can control our size. We can control our feather. We can control the flow. All right. So you mentioned being able to apply a lighter density mask. The flow helps control that. So we can put a low flow on it or a low density, okay, and build up the mask as we brush, okay. I tend to pretty much use flow, all right, because I don't know, it's easier for me, okay. And then we have this little toggle here called auto mask. Auto mask is a nice little feature, but you have to be careful with this. Auto mask uses edge detection. So as you're brushing, it'll recognize when it comes to an edge, but the edge needs to have a certain amount of contrast. All right, so either color contrast, well, usually color contrast, or some kind of luminosity contrast. Okay. If you have a shape, for example, let's say you have a wall that you want to brush on, and the wall has a very distinct hard hard edge shadow, and it goes from light to dark. Okay, it's gonna see that edge shadow as being the border, and it will follow that as the auto mask. If you want to go into the darker part, you now have to travel the brush well into it. Okay, so that's something that you'll learn once you start using it. Okay, I will turn that on when I have very distinct edges. In this case, I don't, because I have a bunch of different stuff that I want to paint over. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my flow up. And I'm going to go ahead and just brush over all these areas. All right. And as you can see, it's turning those spots into that red overlay. Okay. If you don't like the red overlay, yes.
Is there a feature in here by chance that I know I use it in Photoshop? When I'm making sure my mask is solid
Yep.
and like there's no little like say even like slightly opaque areas.
Yep.
I want to make sure it's solid. Is there a way to convert the entire image or to show like what is like in with black and white to convert like show like okay the black is a masked area, white is unmasked, just to see if you see any little white spots in your black.
You beat me to it. I was just gonna mention that.
Awesome.
All right, because as you can see, even with an overlay, you know, there are questions. Did I get everything? Is everything, you know, opaque? The one thing I've learned about masking, whether it's in Lightroom or whether it's in Photoshop, often your masks don't have to be perfect. All right, there's a lot of leniency. But however, if we go to that little oh, why isn't it doing this? Okay, that little square with the color, if you hit the ellipsis right next to it, okay, and we go white on black, there we go. Now we can see where all our holidays are, okay? And then now I can go ahead and use my masking tool, my brush tool rather, to go ahead and fill in those areas. All right. However, like I said, oftentimes those little areas are not that significant. Okay. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank
All
you.
right. And then I'll go back to my color overlay, and I might do something where I says, okay, well, where this water is, I think I'm going to want to remove it because it's attacking a lot of that sky. All right. So now we can go to the subtract tool. All right. Because before we had the add, now we can go into the subtract tool. Okay. Select the brush. Okay. And, well, actually, I'll just do this. Okay. And now you can see that as I brush into that area, it's actually removing that red, that red glow, that red overlay. Okay. And now as I come into these areas here, all right. Oh, and if you make a mistake, okay, in Photoshop, you just hit the X key and you go from black to white. Well, in this case, all we have to do is hit the Alt key, and it will take you from whatever. If you're in the subtract tool, it will switch you to the add. If you're in the add tool, it will switch you to this to the subtract. Okay, and then I can go ahead and just fix whatever mistake I did. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn on my auto mask, and you'll see that it's following that edge, even though my mask, my brush tool looks like it's going over it. As long as that central circle, all right, and Lexi, I apologize because I think for you this is going to be difficult to see. Let me make.
Worries. I'm holding the magnifier up anyway, so
All right.
it's being helpful.
I'm making my brush real super big here. All right. But you're going to see two circles. Okay. An inner circle and an outer circle. All right. And Lexi, let me tell you, every time I get a survey from Adobe about Lightroom, one of my biggest bitches with them is their UI sucks for visibility. All right.
Man.
So I keep you in mind, and I also keep my poor eyes in mind. But this is one of the cases. Look at how small that little inner circle. That little inner circle tells me I am in a negative brush, in a subtract brush. I'm on a big screen. I have to squint hard and look to see that that's a negative. Okay. If I press it, all right, it turns to a plus. The plus is definitely a lot better to see, although it's still small. All right. But look how thin those lines are. Okay. Once this starts moving, it makes it hard to track that brush. Why they need to make that outer circle 1 pixel is beyond me. All right, enough of my soapbox. Okay. But the outer circle represents the size of your brush. The inner circle represents the size of the brush where it's more solid. From the middle one, from the inner circle to the outer, that's your edge transition. How soft or how hard your edge transition is. Okay, so the smaller you make that edge transition, the harder that brush is going to be. Okay, so just so you understand. Okay. All right, any questions so far?
This is good.
All right, so the other thing I have is I have show overlay. Okay, show overlay. If at any point it becomes a distraction, you can always uncheck it. All right. And if you want to see it again, just hit the O key for overlay and it'll toggle it. Okay. But I usually keep it on as I'm building my masks just so I can see exactly where I am on my mask, in my mask building. Okay. All right. So once I'm there, once I have my mask built and I'm happy with it, now I have available to me, oh, and what I have all these edit tools available to me. All right. So you can see them all on the right-hand side. Okay. Everything that's pretty much in the develop module. Okay. Your tone adjustments by sliders. You have your color temperature along with saturation. You have point colors. All right. You have your curves adjustment, which is nice that they put that in here. At one point they didn't have that. And then you have your effects such as clarity and dehaze and grain control. So you have, in essence, you have all the three elements that are needed for a good edit. You have your lighting control, you have your color control, and you have your texture control. Okay. All right, so once you start applying a slider, all right, you'll notice that the overlay disappears, okay? And this allows you to see exactly what you're looking to do, okay? And it usually stays disappeared because they assume that you're not going to just move one slider, you're going to be adjusting other sliders as well. Okay. If you need to see the overlay, which usually once you build your mask and you have it pretty well built, you know, at this point, my attention transfers to actually doing the edits, not necessarily working with the mask. And hopefully that makes sense. Okay. So I can, in this case, let's go to effects. I'll add a little bit of texture and clarity and so on. Okay. All right. In Photoshop, how many of you guys and gals actually take the time to label your layers?
Yeah.
You do? Okay. Well, guess what? Label them here too, because it kind of makes sense. All right. If anything, at least label the parent layer, okay? So you can see it says mask 1, and then I have all the adjustments that, all the selections that go to making this mask, all right? The water, the vegetation, the architecture, plus the 2 brush masks that I created. I normally don't relabel those. I will relabel the parent one, okay? Now, the reason I bring this up is because eventually we will be going and talking about how to create presets. All right. Presets behave a lot differently than actions. Okay. Presets are a no matter what the status is of your image, it's going to apply a very specific value to a slider, or in the case of a mask, it's going to create or duplicate whatever was saved in the preset. It's going to duplicate that mask within your image. Okay, so let's say you create a preset that targets the sky, all right, and it's called mask 1. And you make a preset that, you know, maybe you're burning the ground part and you use a gradient, and that's also called mask 1. You can probably guess what's going to happen. All right, Lightroom's not going to know which one is the one to keep because they're both labeled the same. So it's going to run into problems. Okay, so get used to renaming them. And in the case of presets, I'll touch on that right now while we have this open. Okay. Brush 1, brush 2, architecture, vegetation, water, that also plays into account with your presets. So for safety's sake, you'll want to rename these as well. All right. Just FYI moving forward. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and create another mask. In this case, I want to create a mask for the sky. Now, because I've already created a mask, I do not have those nice one-click buttons available to me at the beginning of the session. Okay. So in order to create that, we have to go to this little plus symbol right up here, and we go plus, and then right at the top, we have select subject, select sky, and select background, and select people. So these are kind of like those three, or the first three, and then we have the select people, and then the select landscape. Okay. So in this case, we want to select the sky. And you notice that I didn't even do it. It did it by itself. It gives me the show overlay. And now I can see that overlay in the sky. Okay. And there are some issues, all right, in particular with edges. So if we look at the edge here, you're going to see that there's a little bit of a halo around the trees. All right. And there are all these spaces in between the tree that it kind of sort of missed. Okay. So while it's very decent at selecting everything that is a sky, it will have its problems. Okay. But there are uses for this. All right. And more often than not, when I'm doing anything with a landscape, I'm going to apply a gradient to my sky anyway. All right. Because a rule of thumb is you want the viewer's eye to come in towards the inner parts of the image. If there's anything that pulls the eye away towards the edges, you want to correct for that. All right. And skies is just, it's a big, bright area that just, hey, look at me up here and just keep going off the page. So I tend to burn the outer edge of the sky, the top part of the sky, in order to kind of coax the viewer's eye to come back in. So for that, previously, before they came up with this sky selection, I would use a linear gradient. All right, linear gradient, as you guys are probably very familiar with it. It's just a gradient from that goes across left to right, top to bottom, depending on your orientation. All right, and if it caught any part of the trees, I would have to go into the mask and kind of remove it with a brush. Okay. Well, here now, because we made a fairly decent sky selection, I don't need to do that. I just need to apply my gradient. Okay. So what I'm going to do in this case, all right, we're not adding a gradient and we're not subtracting a gradient from the sky. What we want to do is we want to blend the two together. Okay. I want the selection of the sky, but I want it to be as a gradient. So in essence, we're going to embed a gradient into this. So for that, the Alt or the Option, and like I said, once you do the Alt or Option, you're going to see the button come and change to the Intersect. Intersect. Okay. So Alt or Option, Intersect, and I'm going to go ahead and select my linear gradient. Now I can just apply my linear gradient from the top, and you're going to notice that the behavior changes now. The behavior changes to that of my linear gradient. All right, so however way I rotate this, you can see that it's applying the mask above, all right, and it's fading off towards the bottom. But now if you look, especially on the trees on the right-hand side, the original sky mask is preventing that that linear gradient from encroaching into those trees. Okay, that's what that's what this tool does. It allows you to literally embed one mask into another. Okay, all right. So now I can say, okay, I'm going to just target the upper part of that sky. And because I did that, now I really don't have to worry too much about that banding. All right, because I'm not going to apply any kind of effect to that banding. So in this case, maybe I just want to burn down that sky just a little bit. Okay. Let's see. Let's add a little pop of whites to make those clouds a little white, and there we go. Okay. All right. All right. So there's my mask 2, which is now my sky. Okay. Right next to it, you're gonna see 3 ellipses with a little eyeball. Okay. The eyeball is nice because you can toggle on and off the before and after to kind of get a sense of what the effect you just did. Okay. Also, if you click on the ellipsis, you get a drop-down menu that allows you to do certain things. You can invert the mask. You can duplicate it. If you don't want to use the alter option, just go to the menu here and you can intersect the mask, and it allows you to select what you want to intersect it with. You can duplicate the mask without inverting it. You can hide it. You can delete it. Or be careful with this one. You can delete all your masks. So, okay. Any questions so far?
This is awesome.
Okay. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. Now, remember earlier, actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and delete all masks. Because remember earlier I said the sky if I use the sky tool, it kind of leaves me all these little openings in between the trees. All right, so now we have to say, okay, there's a lot of open areas in the tree, especially in this area right here, where there's these gaps in between the branches that I want to target. For whatever reason you want to target, and the sky selection tool just doesn't quite cut it. Well, the nice thing we have is we have the ability to do range masks very easily. All right. If you've ever used range masks in Photoshop, you know they're a bitch to create. You can create range masks based on a 50%. That's easy to do. But if you're trying to do a range mask on like a 25% brightness or even a 75% brightness, creating range masks in Photoshop suck. I actually have a third-party plugin to handle that for me because it's just tedious. However, Lightroom makes it super easy. All right. And with this little drop down, we have the ability to make range masks based on 3 different properties. Color, actually, here, let me go here. Color, all right. So you can be very selective about what color you want to target. Luminosity, which is what we're going to do, and depth range. And you can see in this particular case, depth range is grayed out because not all cameras are capturing depth maps. All right. A lot of cell phones will capture a depth map. Some newer cameras will create a depth map. And all that's doing is it's using LiDAR technology to create a depth map. Okay. I'm not going to go into it. If you want to know a little bit more about it, hit me up. But in this case, I just want to hit the luminance range. Okay. And as soon as I do that, it's going to create a little placeholder because it's going to wait for me to make some selections. Okay. And just like some of the other mask tools, it gives you a wide range of tools that you have available. All right. You have the original tone, the luminosity, color, and texture tools, but you also have this one here. All right. So we have the luminosity range. Luminosity range. Now, pay attention. You see my overlay is red and my show overlay is checked. So that's telling me as I work to build this mask, when I start building it, I'm going to see the parts of my mask are going to be red. But right now, there's nothing red on this image. And that's because I haven't told Lightroom what range within my luminosity range I want to target. Okay. And in this case, actually, I take that back. I am telling Lightroom what range. And in this particular range, the default range is from 100% black to 100% white. Okay. Or 0% light, 100% light. Okay. As I bring in these little house-shaped icons, all right, you're going to notice that we are now revealing certain, all right, it automatically, the red pops up. And as I move this, it's hiding and revealing certain things. Okay. This is based on the luminosity. Okay. If I go from this side, all right, you'll notice that the sky is starting to get unselected. Okay. All right. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to hide everything in my shadows. Okay. And you can see if I zoom in here, we have pink. Okay. Can't see it very well. Let's change it to that white on black. All right. And if we look, we're also picking up a lot of the light areas of the highlights on the leaves. Okay. So what we can do is we can just bring that in. Oops. Bring that in a little bit more. All right. That looks pretty darn good. All right. And then we have off to the side, we can break away from it. And that little breakaway area, all right, you can see that there's a little handle on this rectangle, and then there's that our initial house icon. The difference, the space in between, that is our feather. That's our transition. Okay, we can give it a hard transition or we can soften the transition. Okay, so if you've ever done a blend if in Photoshop, where you move the blend if point, and then if you press and hold the Alt key or the Option key, it splits that point. That's all it's doing. All right, that's our edge transition. Okay, and we can really just play around with it. Okay. Now, as you can see, it's targeting the very bright areas. Okay. There's a lot of the darker areas up in the sky. All right. And there are areas up in this area and above the trees. Okay. There's also a lot of bright spots in the ground area. Those are people wearing light colored shirts. We have let's see, we have, why is it okay, the bushes there, we have people over here. All right, and then of course we have this flag that is very light. Okay, and then in the sky we have all these darker areas of the sky that just are now out of the mask area. Okay, so we need to find that balance, okay, between preserving what we are wanting to preserve, and in this case what we're looking to preserve is the area in between the trees. Okay, we want to preserve that. Okay, everything else we have to make a decision on how we want to approach that. All right, so in this case what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a brush tool. Okay, and with my brush I'm going to give my feather a tighter feather density and flow at 100%. I can now go in and clean up my mask. Okay, and I have my auto mask. All right, so for the auto mask I'm going to increase my feather just a touch, and I'm going to make sure I don't cross into that heavy dark area. I'm just barely touching it, and you can see it does a really decent job of maintaining that edge. Okay, and along the statue. Okay, as with anything, modify the size of your brush to fit the need. All right, if I'm going to go in here, I'm going to zoom in. Okay, get my brush back. All right, and notice as I brush along, it's recognizing that there's a hard edge there. All right. And it's not going into that darker area. All right. It allows me to really clean it up. Okay. All right. Any questions about how you can use the range mask? All right. The color range mask and the luminosity range mask, they both work the same way. The only difference is one targets color, the other one targets lights and darks. Okay. All right. And then once you have your mask built, come on. Then we can go ahead. I'm going to bring it back to my color overlay because I tend to like that a little bit better. And you can play around with, you know, whatever it is that you want to do. Okay. All right. If you want to add additional ones, you know, you can just click the plus symbol. Okay. For those of you who do people, portraits. All right, let's see. Okay, this one doesn't have any masks on it. All right. We have a very specific set of tools for people. All right. A long time ago, Lightroom introduced facial recognition, and it was great because it creates a database that you can train. It'll recognize a person based on biometrics, and then you can label that person with a name, and whenever it comes across that person within your images, it's going to tag it with that person's name. So it's a great way of finding images with people, with very specific people in there. Okay. Obviously, once they started really building AI into Lightroom, they said, hey, we can take that facial recognition and implement it into our mask creation. And not only can we recognize people, but we can recognize the parts of people, all right, because it's using the biometrics, all right. So in this case, there's only one person in my sample image. So what it's going to do is down here where it says people, it only has one person there. Okay. If there were multiple people, you would see a circle for each person. Okay. So right now there's only one person. And if you see that if I hover over that person, the mask lights up for me. Okay. If you click on that little down arrow, all right, you're going to notice that it will close up your panel. All right. I normally don't bother with it. All right. So now I said, okay, I want to build a masks based on this person. So I'm going to click on a person. In this case, it's just one that I want to build a mask for. Okay. And it switches over to this, very similar to what you saw with the landscape, where each one of these check marks is a different portion of the person's anatomy. Okay. All right. So we can select the entire person. We can choose just the facial skin. So if you want to do a little skin softening, non-facial skin, so anything that is non-facial, necks, hands, arms, legs, torsos, it will recognize it. All right. People with light eyebrows, sometimes you want to go ahead and burn them in a little bit. All right. So you can select the eyebrows. Okay. the whites of the eye called the sclera. All right, it's hard to see here, all right, because it's so small. The iris and the pupils, all right. So, somebody who has darker eyes, what's the first thing that we do in Photoshop? We go in and we brighten them up, okay? Lips, all right? You don't want dead-looking lips. You want a little color to them. Teeth, for teeth whitening. Hair, all right? Hair, usually you'll apply some kind of texture contrast. And clothing, okay? So you can be as selective as you want. You can choose the entire person, okay? So I can say, okay, I'm just going to hit the facial skin and the body skin, okay? And as soon as you make any kind of selection here, you're going to see another option pop up at the bottom, and it says create 2 separate masks. Okay, so you can tell it, you can tell Lightroom, hey, I want to be able to work on these 2 separately. Okay, so you just click on that and it's going to generate 2 masks. In this case, I don't want 2 masks. I want to be able to control everything within a single mask. So I'm going to leave that unchecked and then I hit create mask. Once I hit create mask, there's my mask. All right. So I have my my single mask and then the 2 parts that create that single mask, the body skin and the facial skin. So everything I do here, it will alter just that part. Okay. And again, a mask, no matter what program you're using, is only as good as you build it. So if there are any parts that are missing, you might want to go in, check the hairline, use the brush tool to add or subtract, just refine your mask. Okay. So in this case, what I want to do, maybe I'm going to go ahead and turn the overlay off because I want to be able to see. All right, so in the color, maybe I want to remove a little bit of the magenta. All right, maybe warm her up just a touch. Okay, maybe reduce the saturation just a touch. Oh, really just a touch. Okay. And the detail, no, I'm sorry, the effects, I want to soften it up. So I'm going to basically remove texture from it. Okay. Not too crazy. Okay. Now, texture and clarity are 2 different things. Texture is kind of like that high frequency. All right. Where clarity is more of that low frequency that kind of gives images that glowing effect. All right. My rule of thumb, and it's only my rule of thumb because this is the way I like my images, but my rule of thumb is I'll apply my texture first, and whatever that texture value is, clarity is going to be half. All right. So if in this case, let's say it's 26, half of 26 is 13. So I'm going to go ahead and, why isn't it going backwards here? 13. There we go. Okay. That's just my rule of thumb. All right. And now if I want to say, okay, I want to build a mask for the hair, I'm going to go ahead and select people. Brings me back to that menu. I pick her. I go ahead and click on hair, create mask. Okay. And in this case, maybe I just want to increase the texture. I want to give her hair a little bit of texture. Okay. And maybe, I want a little bit more contrast in the hair. So I might open up the shadows a little bit. Okay. bring up the highlights just a touch. Oh, maybe not the highlights. Maybe just the exposure just a touch. There we go. Okay. Salt and pepper to taste. Okay. All right. Everybody with me so far? All right. I'm going to build one more, and I'm going to show you another feature. All right. So we're going to go select people, pick her. I'm going to pick her teeth, create mask. All right. Now, within the masks, I mentioned that you have all these tools available, the tone, the color, the texture, all of that, right? We also have some presets here, some presets that come pre-built into Lightroom. And if you click on that little, drop down, it's going to give you this, right? The top ones are the generic temp, tint, exposure, contrast, all the sliders. But down below it, you have presets that are that come with Lightroom, including, where is it? Teeth whitening. Okay, so right there, let me go ahead and zoom in here. Okay, toggle it off, toggle it on, toggle it off, toggle it on. Okay, so now it applied that preset. Okay, and you say, ooh, it's a little bit too neon bright. It's making her teeth really, really stand out. I can do one of two things. I can scroll through all these settings to see what setting was used to build that preset, which sucks, or I can use this nifty tool called the amount slider. The amount slider. And as you can see, by default, we are applying 100% of that preset. So whatever the preset was built for, it's going to apply 100%. Okay. Now from there, I can increase it to 200%. And you can see now we're blowing out her teeth. All right. But more importantly, we can reduce. All right. And if we reduce it all the way down to 0, let me turn the show overlay off. If we reduce it down to 0, we're back to our original. All right. So what I normally do, one of the things with editing with sliders, and this might work especially true for you, Lexi, is that you'll make a little change and then you'll let go of the slider and you'll look at it and go, maybe a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more. All right. And you say, okay, that looks good. Okay. And you'll step away, you'll be doing something else, and you'll come back to it and you go, ooh, what the hell happened there? Okay. The reason is that when we make small adjustments, our eyes readjust to that look, and that becomes the normal. All right. And then we make another adjustment and that becomes the normal. Make another little adjustment and that becomes the normal. All right. What we're losing is that comparative of the before and after. So one of the tricks that I do is, in this case, I'm going to reduce it 100% and then bring it in until I feel it's right. All right. And that looks about right. Okay. Now I don't have to worry about what's that?
You like that?
Makes sense, right?
It was, yeah, because especially when it went from being 100%, like I'm sorry, 0%. That really, you can really see the difference. And really make
Exactly.
sure you're looking at it as in a real look.
Right. Exactly.
We're talking about teeth, because
Yeah.
teeth can be very, very different.
Yeah. Yes, very much so. But this applies across the board. all right? If you do something with the eyes, okay? I've seen eyes that are processed to the point where they look crunchy and neon, and it's just like, ooh, that's over processed. Okay, so we want to avoid that. All right, here I'll show you what I mean. Okay, going to build another one using just presets. Okay, where's my? Oh, I did the wrong one. Let's get rid of that one. We want select people. In this case, I want just the iris and the pupils. Create mask. She looks like a demon child because of my overlay, right? We go to the custom presets. And what do we have here? We have iris enhance. Okay. While I have this open, I'm going to show you. I have a few here that I've built. Products on white, Santa, fur brightener. I have texture, so I can apply 2 different levels of texture, all with a click of a button. Okay. If you want to save a specific setting as a preset for this section, you just save current settings as new preset. You give it a name, and there you go. Okay, so you can save settings for your masks here. Okay, this case I'm going to do iris enhance. Okay, in this particular preset, it's not overly overdone. All right, so sometimes if I want those eyes to pop, I'm going to bring it up. But if I bring it up to 100%, all right, especially this one here on the left-hand side, because it's in shadow, you can see how unnatural that looks. All right. And if we zoom out a little bit, let me get out of the mask. That looks terrible, right? That looks terrible. All right. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take that mask, and, I want to play around with it until it looks, all right. So shift it one way or the other and then bring it in until it looks good. All right. And that's fine. Okay. All right. Any questions on any of this so far?
I'm missing a little bit here and there.
You're missing?
Yeah. So you created all these presets.
No, so far I've been using the built-in presets.
Okay, these are the built-in ones. Okay.
All right.
So these are there already.
Correct.
I just haven't found them. Okay.
Correct. So those presets only apply to that specific mask. All right. So you have to have a mask selected. All right. And right at the top of that panel.
And then apply a preset.
Yep. You'll see mask number 4. Okay. Preset iris enhance is what's selected. All right. And if you just click on that little up down arrow, that's going to open up all your presets. Okay. And then of course you can always reset if you completely screw it up. All right. Now, if you need to invert it, you can do an invert here. All right. There's a little toggle that allows you to invert it. Or you can also invert from this little drop down by these 3 little ellipses. Okay. All right. So for example, one good way of doing it is, I have a landscape. I have a sky and a ground plane, but there is no quick selection for ground plane. Okay. So one of the easiest ways to do it is I will select the sky and I will invert it. And of course, that now selects everything but the sky.
Yeah.
So mountains, trees, streams, you name it. Okay. And I also do that sometimes if my background one click doesn't work, simply because there may be multiple people. I will go ahead and select the subject of what I want, and I will invert that, and that now becomes my background. All right. Hopefully that makes
Photoshop
sense.
works for that.
Yes, exactly. Control I to invert. All right. So let's build some
Hey, Doc.
presets. Yeah.
Can you show us how to change the order of the panels on the far right-hand side?
Oh, sure. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Okay. If you notice, mine is not in the default order. If you're looking at your Lightroom and my Lightroom, you're going to see that the default order on yours is not the same as the order on mine. Okay. And that's because I have a very specific way I like to work in my workflow. Okay. So if you right click anywhere on these tabs, all right. Okay. Actually, there's a couple of things. One that I normally suggest is this solo mode. All right, here we go. This solo mode, go ahead and check that. Okay, because I'll show you what it looks like without the solo mode. All right, I open up this one here. I open up this one. Okay, oh, now I need to get to this one. All right. Now I have all these panels open and I got to scroll up and down in order to get from one to the other. But with the solo mode on, it only leaves one panel open. If I go to my next one, it closes the previous one. So it keeps my workspace a little bit more controlled. All right. The downside is you have to do this. If you like the solo mode, you have to do it on each module, both on the left and on the right. So you have to take time and actually apply it to all those sections. It's not a one click, it does it globally. Okay. If I click on that and I say customize my develop panel, all right, and again, you can order these on the different modules. All right. So in the develop module, I can go ahead and say, okay, I want my effects. Maybe I want my effects up there. Maybe I want my lens blur there. Okay. You just click and drag these around. And then when you hit save, it'll reorder them. All right. I'm not going to, oh, and if you screw it all up, you can hit default order and it's going to go ahead and give you the default. All right. I like my calibration up there. Lens blur at the bottom. Come on. There we go. Color mixing, color grading, detail lens correction. Okay. Actually, lens correction we'll put there. Save. Oh, you got to relaunch it. I'm going to relaunch later. Okay. So that's how you can order it. Okay. All right. Building presets. Building presets. Okay. What there? How many of you have downloaded free presets? You probably have a ton of them, right?
I don't use them.
You don't use them. I know you don't. I know you don't.
Right.
I can guarantee you don't.
Based on not doing what you want to do exactly.
All right. Why? Why don't you use them? Why don't they do what you want them to do?
But they're made for specific images that I
They're
don't make.
made for no, they're not made for specific images. They're made for a specific
somebody else.
workflow, a specific workflow for a specific photographer. All right.
Right.
I hate that. They make money hand over fist selling you these one-click wonders that when you get them, you're completely lost. All right, because that's their workflow. It's not your workflow. All right.
You pay some money, they send you skinny number of,
Right. And
then you're out there just playing with them one at a time.
yep. And the
What does
names.
this do? Hey, what does this do?
Yeah. And the names that they apply make absolutely no sense. You know,
Oh, yeah.
oh, I'm going to use my Autumn 5 preset. All right. Or my Superstar Radiant preset. What the hell? Okay.
What the hell is that?
Yeah. I gave up trying to use third-party presets a long time ago and decided I was going to build my own because I have a very specific way I work. And there are very specific needs within my workflow. All right. So I'm going to show you some of my more basic ones. All right. Just to kind of get you started. And the other thing is, once you learn how to make presets, you can make very project specific presets. Okay. All right. So what is a preset? All right. Here we have an image that we edited. Okay. And we did a couple of things to this edit. Okay. What I like to call is the first step. Oops. Let's pick my yellow marker. Normalize. Okay. Normalize is basically just, you know, if tone control, cropping, skewing, and basic color control. All right. So if an image is a little underexposed, I will bump up the exposure and vice versa. If my horizon's a little crooked, I'll go ahead and straighten it out. If I'm photographing a building and it's, you know, tapering a little bit, I might correct for that taper or the keystoning, right? Those are images that prepare an image to be artistically edited. All right. There's absolutely nothing artistic about normalizing an image. Normalizing an image is basically what, if you sent your roll of film in to get developed, the lab would normalize the image. If it was a little bit underexposed, it would correct for that. If, you know, things like that. Okay. Next step is global edits. All right. Global edits starts the first process of any artistic editing. This is, you know, if I want to change the color temperature, you know, if I want something a little bit cooler, a little bit warmer than what the camera captured, I'll go ahead and do that. If I want to add a little bit of texture globally, I'll go ahead and do that. Or if I want to soften it globally, I will go ahead and do that. Okay. Global edits are those changes that you make that apply across every single pixel. All right. Now, because Lightroom has put in a lot of AI into it, they actually added a one-click button that really does wonders to images. So I'll show you once I explain this part. Okay, so normalize. I then do my global edits, and then I will do my local local edits. Okay. Local edits are those edits that target a very specific part of the image. So like in this case, I targeted her face, I targeted her hair, I targeted her teeth and the iris of her eyes. All right. Those are all local edits. All right. Think of it as dodging and burning, very specific parts of your image. All right. Those are local edits. Okay. The majority of the work that I do is going to be in that section. All right. That's where the magic happens. This is why it's important to really learn how to build good quality masks. Okay. All right. All right. I'm going to take this is a junky image. I'm going to go ahead and reset this. Okay. In the basics tab. All right. When an image is taken from your camera and imported into Lightroom, what it's doing is it's importing a raw file. The raw file has no edits done to it whatsoever. It's just ones and zeros. Okay. However, we need to be able to view the interpretation of those ones and zeros in the form of a photograph. Okay. And when it generates that JPEG preview, it's going to want to apply some sort of settings, some sort of color profile. All right. And that comes from your camera. The color profiles that you set in your camera that were used when you took that picture is what gets imported into Lightroom. Okay. So in this case, you can see my color profile or my camera profile was, in this case, camera landscape. I had it in camera landscape mode for some unknown reason. Okay. I think I was just playing around with it. Okay. However, if I drop that down, I have a whole bunch of different things to select from. All right. Most of these are Adobe Lightroom stuff, Adobe Color, Adobe Landscape, Adobe Neutral, Portrait, Vivid. And then it has two brand new ones. These are were added about a year and a half ago or so. Adaptive Color and Adaptive Black and White. This is your AI-based adjustments. The AI looks at your image, says, oh, what's this an image of? Oh, it's this, and this. Well, these have a very distinct visual quality that we need to apply to it. All right. Skies should be blue. Skies should have, with clouds, should have some kind of texture. All right. If the exposure's a little bit off, it's going to adjust your exposure for you. All right. I've gotten into the habit that the first thing I do as soon as I import my images, I'm going to go and click on that adaptive color. Okay. And you can see all of a sudden it's gone from this to this. Kind of washed out brown to something that's a little bit, granted, it looks a little underexposed. All right. This is the AI taking over. All right. But what I want you to notice, first of all, is that all the features that make your global adjustments, your color tones, your exposure, highlights, shadows, all that, none of these get touched when you apply that profile. You still have all those available to you. Okay, so this is a bonus. Okay, so in this case, I just maybe just open up the exposure a little bit, and maybe bring my whites down. Okay, add maybe a little bit of contrast, and we're good. All right. So if you haven't been using that, go ahead and do it. Here's the problem. Okay, it's AI and it's evaluating the image. After a while, when you've done a bunch of stuff, it's going to reevaluate and it says, you know what? It's starting to stray from that initial evaluation. And what's going to happen is this little symbol here past the masking tool. This is for your adaptive profiles. That's going to light up kind of like a gold color. All right. And hopefully we'll see it later. Okay. If you press that, it's going to reevaluate and readjust. All right. So be careful. Just because it lights up does not mean you have to press it. All right. Use it with caution. All right. So now,
Doc,
yeah.
that preset panel that you showed from Adobe, is there another panel in there that shows it from the camera manufacturers?
Yes.
Like with my Canon, I've got a set in there that portrait, landscape, and everything else.
Yep. So if you click on that little down, that little menu, all right, it's going to show you pretty much the more common ones. So it's going to preload it with all the Adobe stuff, of course, because it's an Adobe product. But there's also a little browse. Okay. If you notice right down here, it says browse. However, off to the side, there's this little grid. If you click on that, that also goes into the browser. Okay. And you can see that everything with a star is going to be added to that drop down. Okay. If you hover over it, these are all of the profiles that are available that you can apply. So I have the Adobe stuff. Yep.
Question is, which do you think is better? Stuff coming from Canon or the camera manufacturer or the AI?
I find the AI works wonders. I've never been disappointed with what the AI has selected for me. Obviously, yes, I will need to modify the exposure on occasion, but that's a minor inconvenience for the amount of time it saves me, especially if I can apply it, immediately on import. Okay. All right. So here we have our original camera presets. Okay. And it's going to, this part here is going to be dependent on the camera system that you use. All right. So Lightroom knows that this photograph came from, let's see. Where's my metadata? Well, I'm not going to go digging for it, but it's probably at that time of probably my 7D or even my 6D. All right. So what it's going to do is it's going to load up the camera profiles from that camera. All right. As you know, Lightroom maintains a database of hundreds of camera styles and hundreds of lens profiles. All right. So it's going to base on your camera. Typically, Canon profiles, they kind of suck. I hate them. All right. So I never use them. So if you notice, none of these have a star. I don't want them showing in that initial drop down. All right. I want them hidden. All right. We have some legacy ones. Legacy, these are the hangarounds from earlier versions of Lightroom. Okay. I usually don't use them. All right. And then we have, of course, the 2 adaptive ones. All right. And I want those always available to me. So I click on these little stars. All right. And it adds it to my favorites. That will add it to that front menu. And then we have a bunch of artistic ones. All right. And again, you know, the naming convention gives you absolutely no clue as to what it's doing. But you can see that it is adding different color profiles. Okay. So if one of these appeals to you, you know, you can start applying it right at the beginning. If you do a lot of black and white work, all right, different levels of contrast to your black and white. There are a bunch of presets here. Okay. Modern presets. These tend to be, you know, more on the punchy color side or the weird muted vintage and yuppie styles and the grunge styles and things like that. And of course, vintage. All right. You can also buy, if you're a big fan of like Fuji films, you can buy presets, you know, the Fuji Velvia, the, you know, colors, and just load them up here. Okay. But anyway, that's where you find them. Okay. All right. So I'm going to show you how to build a couple of more standard presets that I use. I built a bunch of presets that I use when I do event photos because I'm finding I'm doing the same edits across multiple images. So it's nice to be able to just pick a whole bunch, click one button, and I'm done. Okay. Vignette. What's the purpose of a vignette? A vignette darkens the corners, darkens the edges, and it helps force the viewer's eye in towards the center of your image. Now, Lightroom does have a vignette capabilities. All right. It's in the effects tab. All right. So if you slide it to the left, it darkens the edges. If you slide it to the right, it lightens the edges. Okay. But this is one of those tools where it's like, it's a hammer. And when you have a hammer and that's your only tool, everything becomes a nail. But as you know, not everything is a nail when it comes to photography. Okay. Oftentimes when I apply a vignette, it's not dead center. Okay. It all very much depends on where my subject is. Okay. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to build a vignette. Okay. So this is going to be based on a mask. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a radial gradient. Okay. So a radial gradient is exactly that. It's just a big round radial, right? And I'm going to go extreme so you guys can see it. Okay. All right. So this, think of it as a spotlight. Okay. And now what I can do with this is I can go ahead and put this wherever I want. All right. And when I'm working with masks, oops. Hold on a second. Oh, hold on. What the hell? All right. I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to go right out to you know, the corners. I want a little bit more. All right. And you can see that I'm leaving those corners quite clear. All right. Now, however, this mask is applying the oh, what did I do? Hold on 1 second. I did something wrong here. Mask. What the? Hold on. I don't know what I just did, but I screwed it up somehow. There we go. Okay. I want to apply this to just the center part, and not just the center. I want it a little bit more towards the top. Okay. Because what I find is in environments, I don't want the eye traveling too far down the image. I don't want the hotspot in the center. All right. Because most of the time people are going to be in it. All right. And usually I will build this with a photograph that I'm going to be building the preset for. So I would normally build this with, you know, a group, event photo. All right. But I don't have one handy. I don't want to spend time. So I'm just going to show you how it's done. So here's my vignette, but it's targeting the center. I want it to target the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my invert here. Okay. And what it does is, I don't know if you can see it. All right. It hits the outside. It's keeping the center part in. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop that down. I don't know, maybe a third of a stop. So I'm going to go negative 0.33, about a third of a stop. All right. And before, after. Okay. If you feel that's a little bit too much, maybe, you know, I'm going to go, instead of 3.3, I'm going to go negative 0.25. Okay. You're going to build this according to your needs. All right. I got that looking the way I want. Now, remember I said we have to be paying attention to our naming convention, because now it's the default mask 1. When I make another one, it's going to say mask 1. So I need to change this, and I need to change this one. Okay. So I'm going to change this, double click, or you can do a right click, rename. All right, same thing. And I'm going to give it a name that is logical for the purpose of the mask. Okay. I also tend to name the mask the same name that I'm going to use for the preset. Okay, so there's a lot of naming here. All right, so I'm going to take a pause. We'll get back to this in a second. I want you to take a look at some of mine here. Okay, here's my presets panel. All right, and of course you have the default user presets. Okay. And then I have a bunch of folders that I've created over the time that I organize my presets for. Okay. As you build your library, you're going to add more stuff. You're going to shift things around. That's okay. You can click and drag these around wherever you want. Okay. So in this case, we're doing a dodge and burn. Okay. And so I have a folder called Dodge and Burn. Okay. That tells me exactly what the contents of the presets are here. Oops. Okay. And then I have the first part is a description of what specifically this particular preset does. In this case, it's in my dodge and burn. I'm either going to dodge or I am going to burn. Anything else is not going to be in that folder. All right. So the prefix is going to be either I'm dodging or I'm burning. Okay. It stores them alphanumerically. So you can see burns, all my burns are at the top. Okay. And you'll notice that it says burn 1 top, burn 2 bottom. Okay. All right. I did this on purpose because, like I said, it orders things alphanumerically. B comes before T. But top, in my mind, is above bottom. Make sense? So when I was looking at these and the first one was bottom and then the second one was top, I said no, they need to be reversed. So I renamed it 1 and 2. Okay, I have sky texture, strobe left, strobe right, strobe top, vignette 1 stop, vignette half stop. Okay, and then I have a bunch of dodges and burns. Okay, and as I hover over these, if you notice on my screen in the center, it's showing you a preview. All right. So burn the top. Okay. Burn the top. Burn the bottom. Okay. Pay attention to your naming convention. It helps you keep organized. All right. Try to find a naming convention that makes logical sense, that is repeatable, that is organizable. Okay. All right. So now I have my mask. Okay. What is my mask? My mask is a vignette. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and if I have a couple of vignettes, all right, I might go ahead and look at those naming conventions. Okay. Actually, all right, I want you to stay with me, folks, because this can be a little complex when it comes to naming conventions. All right. So I am going to go ahead and click on that, and I'm applying that vignette. Let me get rid of this one. Delete mask 1. Okay. And you can see that it's called vignette. All right. And if we open that up, all it is that radial mask. Okay. That's all it is. Okay. That's called vignette. Okay. Here on the side, it's called vignette 1 stop. So it's burning the corners by 1 stop. So it's fairly dark. Okay. And you can see, all right, if I toggle before and after, you can see how dark that vignette is. Okay. However, if we look at the next one down, it says vignette half stop. All right. And if I click on that, all right, and then I toggle back and forth, all right, it's not as dark. And if I go to my, oops, I'm in the before. If I go to my masks panel, what are you going to see? You're going to see a mask called vignette. All right. And in this case, that's a half stop. All right. Half stop. Okay. If I click on this one, all right, it just reset. I have vignette, but if I select that and we look here, you can see that it's a full stop. All right. Because they share the same name, one is going to overwrite the other. Remember this, okay? If you don't want them to overwrite each other, you have to give them unique names. Unique names. Obviously, I don't want to be able to stack a bunch of vignettes. I want them to overwrite each other. Okay, so I'm going to make it on purpose that I choose the same exact name as the other one. All right. So here, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. I'm going to create a new one, radial gradient. Oops. We're going to apply it at the very, very top. I'm going to go ahead and invert the mask. I'm going to reduce the exposure. I'm going to go -1, okay? Just so that you guys can see it, okay? I am going to call this vignette top, all right? Or no, vignette bottom, all right? Because it's favoring more of the bottom than the top, okay? And I'm going to say okay. All right, there's my radial gradient. All right, I'm going to rename that vignette radial gradient, okay? Just to keep it different. I have that set. I'm going to go ahead and close that out. I am now going to want to create a preset based on that mask. So right at the top where it says presets, off to the side is a little plus arrow with a little drop down button. We're going to click on that and we're going to create a preset. Create a preset. Okay. And this is where you have to pay attention to your naming convention. All right. This is what's the purpose? It burns the top corners. Burns, all right? This, what type is it? It's a vignette. All right. And I'm going to call it bottom up heavy. All right. It's a descriptor. When I read that, I know exactly what that preset does. Okay. And this is why I hate the ones that you can buy, because you have no clue. And I'm going to put it where? In my dodge and burn folder. All right. So I just click on that and I tell it where I want to put it. If there is no folder, you can create a folder. Okay. What do I want that preset to contain? These are all your choices. Okay. I am going to select only those features that create that preset. All right, so I'm going to come down all the way to the bottom. The first thing I do on all my presets, I check none. I don't want it doing anything. Okay. And I'm going to go through here. All right. All the way to the right is my masking. All right. My masking. And you can see it gives me my, my vignette bottom. All right. Unique name. It's not mask 1. It's not mask 2. All right. I'm going to go ahead and check that. All right. As soon as I check it, you're also going to see that the support amount slider was selected. All right. Make sure that's selected because you want to be able to adjust the intensity of these presets. Okay. Once I got that, all right, I am going to, we're not going to do any custom subsets or anything like that. That's new. I don't know what that is. I have to read it up. We're going to go ahead and click create. All right. And here it is. It got added. All right. And you can see I broke my naming convention. Okay. I broke my naming convention. Vignette should be in all caps. All right. That's okay. I can come here. I can rename and I can say, all right, vignette in all caps. All right. And now we're good. All right. And if I click on that, I go here. There's my vignette bottom heavy. Okay. Now watch this. I have two others. I'm going to add my vignette one stop. Okay. And now you're going to notice that my edges have become a lot darker. Why? Because I used a different name for the mask, vignette bottom and vignette. All right. It's recognizing these two as being different. Okay. And therefore, one is not going to overwrite the other. Make sense? All right. Which now I have to take time out and say, oh, damn it. That's not what I wanted. I got to now come here, open up my panel, find where the problem is, and I have to go ahead and delete that mask because I screwed up. Okay? So pay attention to what you name your masks. All right. When you start building a bunch of them for your presets, go back and double check. You want to be safe. Okay. And that's
rename.
What's that?
Rename. Is it easy to rename your presets?
Yep.
You find your,
all right.
yeah.
So here I have my, all right. Okay. I'm going to come here. I'm going to say, okay. Well, first of all, let's go ahead and bring this one stop up. Okay. Oh, see, that's radial gradient 1. Okay, so I'm going to copy that, cancel. I'm going to go here, paste that in. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to get rid of bottom. All right. Okay, I don't need this part here in my mask stack to tell me that it's the bottom heavy one. All right, I just need to know that that's my vignette. Okay, because a vignette is a vignette is a vignette. I only need to know what I'm targeting when I initially add that effect. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and come out of here. I'm going to find the one that I want to modify. All right, and I'm going to right click. Okay, and update with current settings. All right. Now, in this particular case, it remembered what I used last because we just created it. But if, a month down the road, you say, oh, I need to modify this, and you've created others, you may have something like this. Okay. You'll need to go in and clear everything and just check what you need. Okay. Remember, anything checked anywhere else, whatever gets saved, it's going to apply it. All right. So be careful. And we're going to hit update. Now, all right, there's my vignette. All right. Oh, yeah. Okay. It's not going to do it because I used a different radial gradient. Okay. I used a different radial gradient. All right. when you create a mask under the hood, or no, I'm sorry, when you create a preset under the hood, Lightroom gives it a unique serial number. I completely forgot about this. So this just reminded me. Sorry, guys. Gives it a unique serial number. Okay. And it uses that as the identifier. Okay. So in this case, because I've built this one, here it is months later, and I haven't been paying attention. It's using that unique serial number as saying, hey, that's a different mask. Okay. So what we want is we want to take the old mask. I'm going to get rid of the new one. Delete. Sorry, I think I just confused you guys. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and modify this to be my new one. Okay. All right. Vignette. Good. Get out of there. Come back here to my vignette bottom heavy. Update with current settings. Mask. Update. Now we're good to go. All right. So now if I click on this one, it should override it. Yep. If I click on this one, it should override it. Yep. Okay. And then this one. Okay. There we go. All right. Okay. So how can we use that to our effect? All right. Well, let's build another one. Those of you who create or who shoot events, groups. Let's see. Do I have anything with? Oh, okay. Here we go. I do have something. All right. I want to create a series of Dodge. We're going to brighten for our events. Okay, so let's think a little bit about this. Okay, when we're walking around with our cameras, taking pictures of people at an event, we of course compose our scene with the rule of thirds, and we'll either place them to the left, to the right, or in the center. Correct? All right. And oops. Where's my draw tool? Okay. No, not rating. Not rating. Come on. All right. So if we draw here, okay, our subject's going to be left, right, or center. Okay. And of course, what do we want to highlight? We want to highlight their faces. We don't care about their pants. So what happens is we are going to be mainly concentrating on this upper 2/3, correct? So when we build our presets, I want, we're going to be lighting, all right? I want everything to be above this line here, okay? And it's going to be in one of these three quadrants, not all the way over here, because we very rarely put a person there. What we do is we'll put a person here, we'll put a person here, or we'll put a person here. Make sense? All right. So that's what we're going to do. Come here. Oh, let's get rid of all these masks. Okay, let's get rid of delete all masks. Okay. I'm going to create a radial mask. I love my radial masks. Come on. All right. And I usually start in the center simply because it's easier. Okay. And I'm going to be fairly tight. Okay. Fairly tight. Okay. And I'm going to label this Dodge Center. Okay. Dodge Center. Okay. And what I want to do is I'm going to apply some brightening, my whites, maybe open up my shadows a little bit. I don't really want to touch the exposure because you notice the background. I don't want a halo around my subject. So I usually leave the exposure alone. I'm going to bring up the whites because that tends to really open up skin tones, and for darker people, the shadows, and for clothing, the shadows, I'm going to bring it up. All right. I like kind of like even numbers. So I'm going to go 25. Why isn't that giving me going up? And 25. Okay. And that's pretty much it. That's all I'm doing. Okay. Dodge center. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new folder. All right. Create preset. All right. Dodge center support slider. I'm going to call this Dodge center radial. Okay. Dodge center radial. I'm going to create a new group. I'm just going to call this test. All right. Create and hit OK. And here is my test. And there is my center radial. Okay. Now, if I just take this and move it here and rename it, we're going to have a problem. It's going to overwrite. It's going to overwrite everything. Okay. We don't want that. All right. Let's get rid of that. Delete all masks. We're going to create a new one. Oops. Radial gradient. And I'm going to put it in that that first third. All right. And what do? We opened up the shadows. 25. We opened up the whites 25. Okay. And we're going to call this Dodge left. Okay. Create preset, Dodge left, create. Oh, I forgot to give it a name. There we go. Rename Dodge left radial. Okay. Again, naming conventions. All right. Center, left, and now we just got to create one more. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. Delete. Create a radial. About the same size. And we're going to put it in that upper 2/3 right. We're going to call that Dodge right. Enter, right? Create preset, Dodge right radial. You can see how quickly I'm building these. Create, okay? And if I wanted to, I can make one where, we can use it for a group. All right, so we're going to go here. Let's get rid of that one. Create a new radial gradient. We're going to keep it into that upper middle section because I don't want to illuminate anybody on the extreme lefts and rights too much. Okay, I'm just going to keep it kind of like there. What do we do? 25 and 25. All right, we're going to rename this one Dodge Center. Oh, no, can't use center. All right, Dodge Group. There we go. Okay. There we go. All right. Create preset, Dodge Group Radial. Enter. Okay. See how easy that was? All right. Now, these are not, I'm not working with complex presets. These are very specific. They do one task. It's not a Swiss Army knife like some of the presets that people give you. All right, because no two images are going to be processed the same. All right, that's my biggest beef. All right, so now, let me delete this. Okay, delete all masks. Okay, so now I say, all right, I have this shot. I say, I want to brighten up the people in the middle. I just come here and I go, all right, group, center, group, left, right. Okay, I'm running into a problem. This stack order doesn't make sense to me. Okay, group should be at the bottom. Left should be at the top. Center should be underneath that, and then right. Because in my mind, it goes left, center, right. Make sense? So take a few seconds. We're going to rename this. I'm going to put a 2 here. Okay. I'm going to go here, rename. My group is going to be 4. Okay. My left is going to be 1. And my right is going to be 3. Okay. So now when I look at that stack, it goes left, right, left, center, right, group. So now I don't have to think about it. I can go based on placement. I'm visually seeing where the mask is going to go. And in my mind, we read left to right. So left should be first, center should be second, right should be third, and the group should be last. All right, so this is a group shot. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Why didn't it apply it? There we go. All right, why is it not applying it? Okay. Oh, you know what? I think I screwed up. I went too little bit too fast. All right, so let's go. Radial. For some reason, my radial, my last one didn't get processed properly. So we're going to go back. Easy fix. 25, 25. We know how we built it. All right, we're going to go here. Nope, we're not. We're going to go here. Update with current settings. Aha, see? I forgot to check it. All right, and we update. Okay, all right, so let's double check that. All right, I made a change, so I want to make sure that it works. So we're going to double check. There it is. It applied it. Okay, next one. All right, where's my subject? Oh, it's all the way over on the right-hand side. So we're going to go to the right. Okay. And in this case, it's a little weak. All right. I can take that and I can actually, let's go here. All right. Right up here is our amount slider. Okay. There it is. Dodge 3 right radial. All right, we're going to increase. All right, increase our, wow, and it's not, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, there it is. Oh, look at that. It didn't keep. See, I'm moving too fast for my own good, guys. All right, let's try this again. Right radial, update with current, make sure that's selected, update. Okay. All right, we're gonna delete it. We're gonna reapply it. Right radial. Okay, it's a little weak, so we can take our slider and we can increase it. Oops, there it is. All right, increase it. All right, there we go. Okay, now if you notice, it increased it without really moving these sliders. All right, so if we open it back up, check on that, it's still at 25. All right. So you have the ability to increase on a couple of levels. All right. The nice thing about this is you can always open this up and say, okay, well, you know, he's a little lower in my screen and maybe it needs a little bit of exposure. We can always go in and modify our mask, our preset. Okay. Here's the next one. All right. Oh, this was part of a panel. All right. So let's go. Oh, here's another group shot. Okay. Group, increase, and I'm done. All right. Before, after, before, after. Okay. Any questions? All right. We're going to wrap it up.
Done.
We're going to.
Yeah, that was well done.
All right. So you have a bunch of stuff that comes with Lightroom. You can play around with them. All right. I keep these because I teach Lightroom, so I keep these just in case anybody asks, but I never use any of these. All right. These are all mine right up here. Okay. I group them by what they do. All right. Vibrance. Sometimes I got to reduce that vibrance. Okay. I have presets that I've made for my clients. Okay. They color grade their images according to their standards. I built presets specifically for those clients. Okay. Let's see. Masks. Okay. People brighten. All right. This one utilizes the AI masks. All right. Photos with Santa. Every year I'm doing photos with Santa, and I have a bunch of presets that do very specific things. And products on white. Oh, look at that one. Okay. It selects my subject and masks out my background. How easy is that one, Rick? Look at that one.
Yeah, I
Huh?
like that.
Yeah. All right. My table, sometimes I get that front edge. I capture that front edge of the table. This one gets rid of it. Okay. So there's all kinds of stuff. All right. Textures, noise. All right. Denoise. I have 3 texture: light, medium, and heavy. Okay. Remember I said earlier, when you set a slider to a specific number and you build your preset based on that number, no matter where you put that slider, as soon as you hit that preset, it's going to set it to that slider. So what I did is I I created 3 depending on my needs for the image that I'm working on. Okay. And if I apply a texture and I say, you know what, I'm looking at it, I don't like it, I need to get rid of it. Well, I could go into my stack, all right, and say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and delete what I did or undo it. But it's just as easy to create a reset, okay? Because, for example, these do not utilize masks. They actually utilize, where is it? FX. No, I'm sorry, basic. Okay. So what I want you to do very quick before we wrap it up, texture and clarity, texture and clarity. Okay. So here's my light. Okay. It added a little bit of texture and clarity. Here's my medium. All right. It went from 20 to 30. And remember, I said my go-to is the clarity is always going to be half of my texture. Okay. And here it is heavy-handed. Okay. Which is 40-20. I'm not maxing out. Okay. But this is very, very heavy. All right. You may not be able to see it in the on the screen, but if we look before and after, look how much crunch that gave us. Okay. Well, if I say I don't want it, I can undo it. Okay. Now my texture is back to 0, 0. All right. So keep that in mind. I think I have a couple of those strewn throughout here where it resets. Okay. All right. I kept you guys long enough, more than our allotted time. So last minute questions before I cut you loose. Good?
Thank you, Doc. That was good.
That's
There were a lot of
fantastic.
benefits in there.
All right. If you like this kind of instruction, I do this the first 3 Mondays of the month right here on this Zoom channel at 6:30 Monday nights. So feel free to join me. Lightroom, Photoshop, and this year I'm going to be doing a lot more stuff, studio stuff. Okay.
Doug, send an email out to everybody reminding them that you're doing it on Monday nights at what time and what Monday nights at what time.
Okay. Will do.
Yeah, no, everybody needs an email to remind them, please.
Yep. All right, guys.
Doug, thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Thanks so much, Doc.
Hopefully this
Yeah,
answered a
thank
lot
you.
of questions for you.
Thank you.
All
A
right.
lot of homework to do now.
I'm a phone call away. So,
Right.
Okay.
So much.
all right. We'll see you all.
Yeah.
Thanks, Doc.
Thank
All
you
right,
for
guys.
watching Learning Photography with Duck. Brought to you in association with Milford Photo, your local full-service camera store. Located in downtown Milford, Connecticut, Milford Photo offers you a personalized shopping experience. From the latest camera gear to printing and framing services. And, of course, educational workshops to teach you the finer aspects of photography. Don't forget to tell them Duck sent you.